Alright, so for some background, I have 3 horses and teach riding lessons for a living. I have a small acreage with 2 full-time barn employees whom I trust dearly. I trust them with the life and care of my horses, and both of them have never given me a reason to doubt them or their actions. My horses also love and trust them. My horses are well trained and have never kicked. The one who did is a retired lessons horse and my personal riding horse. Doesn't do kids anymore. My sister visits often, and we have a very good relationship, or did until now. I'm getting 2 different versions of what happened from my barn employees and my sister. I have decided not to pay her medical bill since I am leaning towards my barn employees' story of events, as it makes more sense. So, my barn employees tell me that my sister came to visit and I wasn't around. She came in and was chatting with them, and it was while my old retired mare was getting a bath. The employee said she told my sister multiple times to stop randomly reaching out for my mare's tail and that she was repeatedly bothering, petting, talking to my mare from behind. The horse was getting bothered, pinning her ears and overall getting restless. Evidently, my sister was told multiple times to back off to avoid getting hurt and didn't, and was subsequently kicked in the leg by my mare and has a bone bruise. $600 medical bill for my sister. My sister says the horse randomly kicked out as she walked by. The horse in question has never kicked before. Since the horse in question has never kicked, I could only really see her kicking if repeatedly bothered. I feel torn about paying the bill and decided not to. I mean, if you harass a horse from behind, it's your own fault for getting kicked, right? I feel I should mention another big tell for me. The barn employee continues to be just fine bathing her, picking out her feet, braiding her tail, and isn't nervous about standing behind her. The employee says there's no reason to be because the kick was brought on by pestering. I feel that if my horse had kicked unprompted, my employee wouldn't want to do her grooming anymore or stand behind her, but she does, and has no indication that she's worried about being kicked. I'm not talking about complicated legalities of whether I'm technically bound to pay the bill by law, etc. To be blunt, my sister and I wouldn't see each other. She's just pissed I don't want to pay the bill. And I want to know if I'm really being the jerk here. Am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. I'm going to agree with your assessment. It would be unusual for an animal to suddenly act out, going against its training and temperament, unless provoked or sick. You should not be responsible for the medical bills someone incurs due to stupidity because they committed that act of stupidity at your animal. Yeah, exactly. You don't mess around with large animals unless you want to get injured. You need to have respect for their size and comfort. She was warned. She chose not to listen, and she got what was coming to her. Your sister is a liar. I'm sorry, I refuse to believe her. I've worked with horses for years, and I have yet to see a trained lesson or ranch horse just kick someone for no reason. You are the idiot. You have to take responsibility for the injuries caused by your animals. Familial bonds aside, and really a $600 bill is a paltry sum to fight over, you are responsible for what your animals do. She didn't bring it on herself. You or your employees, for whose actions you're responsible too, allowed access of untrained people to the facility where one of your animals injured this unrelated, untrained person. The specifics of the situation are completely irrelevant here. She might as well have been kicking the horses. It'd still be your responsibility, seeing how the employees let it happen. No. Most animals, especially ones who are used to being around humans, mostly those they identify as family, do not get aggressive for no reason. If she was kicked, she might have done something to aggravate the poor horse. Either way, OP's not responsible for the medical bill. If the sister was after the OP when she visited, she could have just left after finding she wasn't there. However, if you're feeling guilty and want to help, you could cover part of the bill, not the entirety. Mother-in-law and I were in constant conflict. Things have always been bad between us, but in those months we reached our limit. She kept getting involved in my son's treatment. She criticized every decision I made, claiming I didn't know how to handle my son's illness. We went low contact, but she kept causing issues occasionally. My husband was torn between our son's illness and his mother's issues. When my son passed away, she came to the funeral and caused a scene by arguing with me, knowing I had no energy for it. She used the fact that everyone was there to say it was my fault my son was born sick and that I didn't take care of him properly, that I didn't listen to her when suggested other ways to treat his condition, and that I was the one who took their grandchild away from them and caused them heartache. She then loudly called me a bad mother. I have no idea how I kept my composure and kept standing on both feet. My mom and sisters responded by telling her to leave. My husband was sitting down crying. She then told everyone I kicked her out to hurt her further and lied that I convinced my husband to ban her from visiting her grandson's grave. My husband later sent his side of the family an email talking about my mother-in-law's behavior during and after our son's illness and telling them he will no longer be seeing her. That had the family criticizing us. They say mother-in-law was just trying to do what was best for her grandbaby and called us selfish for assuming we're the only ones struggling with this. We haven't seen his mom in 1 year and 8 months. I'm now 3 months pregnant. No one knew, only my sister-in-law, brother-in-law's wife, but word got out, though we told her not to say anything. A week later, I had family members saying I was invited to a dinner hosted by mother-in-law so she could apologize in front of the whole family and settle this issue before the baby's born. They said mother-in-law was regretful and offered to financially provide for her grandbaby, and they want to see that. I refused, but my husband surprisingly wants me to go. I had his grandparents calling me telling me that I'm a person with a good heart and forgiveness is something I'm capable of giving. I told them I'll never be sitting at the same table with the person who called me a bad mother at my child's funeral. I still remember it vividly to this very day. My sister said this change of heart from mother-in-law is probably for the new baby. It could be, but I insisted I won't come. They're saying I'm making it hard for everyone to move on and past this unresolved pain and should really go. Not the idiot. They're making it so everyone can move on except you. They're saying you have to bite the bullet so everyone can pretend it never happened. But if she didn't have the guts to apologize until now, so she can play with the new grandbaby, then she doesn't mean it. She just wants to make a show of how great she is for everyone. I say don't go. It absolutely is. She isn't sorry that she harassed stressed-out parents who are trying to manage the healthcare of a gravely ill baby. She isn't sorry that she berated a grieving mother at that baby's funeral. She is sorry that the consequences of her abhorrent behavior have led to her being denied access to a grandchild. There is absolute proof of this in the fact that she wasn't sorry until she learned a new baby is on its way. Some things should not be forgiven, and frankly, her behavior falls into that category. You are not the idiot here and should not compromise. Not the idiot. I work in nursing in ICU and I see people like your mother-in-law often. You were done so dirty and no one, absolutely no one, will ever understand what you and your husband went through and the kind of horrific choices you had to make. People like to think modern medicine can cure anything, and it's just not true. I'm so sorry for your loss and that you had to go through that. Maybe I'm biased. I see people like you at work making decisions no one should ever have to make while getting yelled at by another family who won't even come to visit the patient. Easy to throw stones when you don't have to make such heavy decisions. You are so within your rights to never forgive that woman. I hope the best for your current pregnancy, and I'm sure this little light will help remind you and your husband what familial love really is. Holy cow, what a dumpster fire. You are under zero obligation to forgive that wretched woman. I am so sorry for your loss. The guilt trip that you are only a good person if you forgive her is nonsense. Stay strong. You and your child deserve better. I, 18 female, have been looking for a job to have while in college, and I found this job for 1 month of being a live-in nanny until mid-May when school ends. Their previous nanny quit, so they needed someone to help with their young kid and online school. The thing is, I didn't find out about the camera thing until recently when I noticed that one of the parents mentioned something that happened when neither of them was home. I got a text message while they were both gone, a few hours after it happened, from the mom that it was okay for me not to water their backyard patio plants because the sprinkler does it. I asked the mother why, and she said she saw me on the recording feed watering the plants. Since the mother and father both have different schedules, sometimes communication has been an issue with me doing something from one parent and then the other saying it was fine. So I asked her why she didn't tell me about it because I would have liked to have known beforehand, and she says there were always cameras everywhere and the previous nanny didn't mind it before. I only worked 1.5 weeks there before the mother told me that, and she even said that it wasn't a problem since it was their home. I can respect their want for security, I just felt that I should have known beforehand because now I feel weird living in the guest bedroom and using their bathroom and stuff while being watched. My sister, 23, got upset when I told them I didn't think the job was for me and I took my stuff and left. We live in her apartment together and she's been having financial and health-related problems too, so me not working that job would cost us potential money. She asked me to move in and help with rent since she's been struggling. She said I was being selfish for prioritizing privacy over saving more money. The father paid me for the time I worked there. Now I'm back home at my sister's apartment doing college work and trying to find another job while applying around. We're both using savings, and I'm using financial aid money to help with expenses. She won't talk to me though after hearing I quit. So now I'm stuck in a weird situation all round. Am I the idiot for quitting my job when I found out I was being recorded? I really hope there weren't cameras in the room they had me sleeping in and the bathrooms I used too. They weren't specific about it, just said that they had cameras but wouldn't clarify if it's in my room or not. I didn't feel comfortable continuing to work if I had the chance of being filmed while changing or bathing. When they interviewed me first, I asked if there was anything I should know before working. They just went over basics, but no mentions of any recording. I'm also not sure about the people saying, I need the money, but this job is just extra savings since I have financial aid and old savings. She is my maternal half-sister, and our mother is dead while her father is in no contact with her. I am also her only sibling. I lived with my paternal half-sister and father 2 months ago, so I've been trying my best to help her out while also trying to help myself out. I'm supposed to be temporarily here before going back home, because until her health issues and financial ones get better, I'm supposed to help her out. Not the idiot. The mum said the previous nanny didn't mind, which means they understand how consent works. They just don't care about yours. If your sister is so upset about it, tell her you'll give her a reference for the position. Not the idiot. They have the right to set terms of employment and you have the right to turn them down. They do not have the right to withhold information about the conditions of that employment, which makes them the idiot. The mother doesn't get to tell you it's not a problem for you. That is solely your decision, and similarly, your sister doesn't get to tell you what level of your privacy is worth what level of payment. It's unfortunate that you face financial hardship for your choice, but you are not the idiot for making it. Okay, hold on a minute. You can't expect privacy in someone else's home. It's their private space. For OP, it's her workplace. They should have told her they had cameras, but no one should assume they have privacy in someone else's home. A bedroom, sure. Bathrooms too. But I don't see why she would change clothes, for example, in any other place in the house. Not the idiot. Just because you're in their home doesn't mean you aren't entitled to privacy. They were wrong for not telling you up front. Your sister needs to chill. You're looking for another job and doing your best. But it sounds like you might need to find a place of your own. Your sister isn't being reasonable since you're helping with expenses anyway. I, 30 female, have been working at the company for 2 years. My co-worker, 28 female, let's call her Liddy, had just announced she's 8 weeks pregnant, first pregnancy, has horrible morning sickness. Liddy planned to take a month unpaid leave while she goes through her first trimester. She had asked HR and they allowed it because it was a legit reason. Apparently, HR told her that she needed to find someone to take over work for her while she was on leave. Liddy had suggested to them that I take over her work while she takes her leave. When HR approached me with the suggestion, I refused it. Well, because to put it bluntly, it's not my problem that she wanted to get pregnant and all, even if I am happy for her. She could easily work from home or get her assistant to do it for her. Bear in mind that I would not get paid extra for doing her work. It would just be me doubling my workload for the same pay. Now, HR can't legally force me to take it, so that's why they couldn't do much about it. Now Liddy is annoyed that I said no. She even tried to turn a few of our co-workers against me for it. They called me an idiot for not being considerate or helpful or a team player, and finally they came to an agreement that her assistant would be taking over her work while I supervise her instead. A solution I had suggested instead of asking me to take over her work while her assistant slacks off. Am I the idiot? Because I'm not very keen on pregnancies and babies and have been very outspoken against it. I think that this might have affected my decision and opinion on this issue. Maybe I should have just swallowed my pride and decisions to take the work instead, but I feel it would not be fair to me to take it because her getting pregnant has nothing to do with me in the slightest. Not the idiot. Liddy wasn't the idiot at first. After all, she is forfeiting her pay with no pay leave to deal with her pregnancy issues. But she turned into an idiot for trying to strong-arm and manipulate you into taking her work for no extra pay, even bad-mouthing you to others. Very unprofessional of her. HR is also the idiot for putting the responsibility of finding a covering officer on her. Seriously, idiots all round at this place. HR sounds like they need some better guidelines for pregnancy and distribution of workload, instead of dump it all on the non-preggy one at no additional pay. You are not obligated to take over anyone's workload, especially if you don't get anything. I always have to laugh when someone who's pregnant or has children expects others to bend over backward to accommodate their needs. They decided to reproduce, so they have to take the consequences for themselves. They do not have the right to expect others to do so. So you are 100% not the idiot. My biological parents put me up for adoption when I was a baby. My biological mother has since passed away. It was a closed adoption. When I was nearly an adult, I was able to find and message my biological father, and while he was polite, he said he didn't want any more contact with me. So while I was hurt, I left it at that. When I was 20, I was given an ancestry kit. Through it, I was contacted by 4 members of my biological family. I told them the truth, and they quickly figured out what my biological father had done. This caused a pretty big storm in their family. My biological father reached out to me and asked me to stay away from his family because it's caused issues in his marriage and his relationship with his parents. My extended biological family has since tried to include me in their family events, and I may be the idiot here, but I've accepted. My father has passed away, and I'm estranged from my mother, and I don't really have anyone else. I've been wanting a family connection. But I've heard that this is blowing up my biological father's marriage, and they no longer come to any family events. The rest of my extended biological family has embraced me completely. It's been great creating all these relationships. My biological father sent me a pretty angry text saying that I was an idiot for ruining his life. To his credit, he texted back a day later saying that he was inappropriate, and we haven't communicated since. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Why would it cause issues within his marriage? Did he lie about fathering a child and placing that child for adoption? Well, not your fault that he kept a rather important piece of information from the woman he chose to marry. It's not like you disappeared. You were just raised by other parents. Did he really think that adoption meant you'd be gone forever? So he's blaming the baby he created and then abandoned for ruining his life? No, sir, not how that works. If he doesn't want a relationship with you for his own personal reasons, then fine, he's allowed to make that choice. But he does not get to make that decision for the rest of his family. They can make up their own minds, and you didn't even go out of your way to track them down. They found you. They want you in their lives. You have every right in the world to form those relationships and enjoy them. And if BioFather doesn't like it, then he can just keep staying away.